Oh hey, I didn't see you there. I'm soL's player coach, Padre, and today I'm going to be talking about a pretty effective PvZ build that's going to help you climb the ranks pretty quickly. It's easy to execute, but it really helps you to practice your micro, macro, and multitasking all at the same time.
Here at my favorite Southern California practice spot for a day of StarCraft, and also we're going to go over how to properly execute 4-gate pressure into a proper Immortal push, followed by whatever tech you need to finally kill off the Zerg.
So the replay I'll be referencing today is a game that I played against Blast on the Korean server. He's a Korean Grandmaster, as you can see, who also happens to be highly ranked on the North American server. If you've ever checked Neos or BattleNet, the Grandmaster list, he's usually highly ranked 25 or 30, so he's a good player. But on Overgrowth especially, it's very easy to attack from the third base and cut off any units with force fields as you kill that third hatchery. So jumping into this game, remember that this is a very, very standard gate expand build that we're opening up with. We're not going to be doing anything too crazy on this one. There's no real need to cut probes anywhere, especially early, because this is still more a macro-based build. Yeah, you're going to be pressuring with the 4 gateways, but your sole intention isn't necessarily to kill them. So I'm going to drop the 9 Pylon, followed directly after by a 13 gateway. Make sure to hit your chrono boost. 13 gate I prefer over 12 gate because it's more eco. And then right after that, actually, we're going to be dropping 115 gas, which he's going to scout, but ultimately you want to do it for the faster Nexus. Followed by the 15 gas is a 16 Pylon, very standard stuff. And he's going to go ahead and go hatch first. That's totally fine with us. In this game, I did not probe scout. I prefer not to probe scout in PvZ anyway. So your timings might be a little later if you probe scout, but it's really no big deal if you feel scouting is more necessary. I'm going to go ahead and drop my core on 18, and also on 18, I'm going to make a Zealot. It's not going to interrupt my probes in this case because, I have the extra minerals from the non-probe scout. He's going gas pool, which is very standard. And then I also drop a probe early down there because I saw that drone, and you want to make sure you don't get hatch blocked, or if you do, you want to see it early. So we're going to keep chrono boosting probes. It's not important to bank your chrono boost with this build. And then you're going to be ready to drop that Nexus right after you get Warp Gate. You get the Zealot and the Warp Gate, and then immediately after you drop that Nexus on 22 supply. Followed by, we're going to make a Sentry, a probe, and then another Pylon. The order doesn't really matter. In this case, I went probe first, then Sentry. Either way, you're going to be dropping the Pylon on 25 supply. That's very standard. I like that early Sentry compared to the Mothership Core because, Sentries definitely don't hurt in this case. And then right after that, we're going to drop another gas after you drop that Pylon and get that 26 supply. The extra Pylon allows you to get the Robo at the right time and also make a few sentries with your first warp and push. And in this case, I'm going to chrono boost that Warp Gate. I actually feel it wasn't necessary to do that, but, faster Warp Gate in this case does not hurt you. And then we're going to go ahead and drop the gateways in front. Make sure you're walling off here. And then a little later, I drop that 4th gateway. And then kill the Ling, obviously. And then around 6 minutes, you want to drop that Robotics Facility. It's really important to get it fast because we're going to be going for some quick Immortals here. But make sure you're making probes at the same time, setting up some kind of proxy Pylon. Here I lose my probe, but I'm able to force field out the Lings and secure a warp in. And he's pretty underprepared for this. He's got a Roach Warren on the way, which is perfect. He's playing right into what we want him to, which is we're pressuring, and we've got the Robo at the same time. He's going to go ahead and try to kill the Pylon, but if you look, his third hatch is essentially dead, and it was just finishing. We're making an Immortal at home. That's very important. Spending the chrono boost. Dropping Pylons in this case because he was able to kill that. But if you look, his Lings are not able to do anything. He's going to get some Roaches out, but ultimately that third hatch is dead, which is very, very important. And if you look, probes are looking pretty good for us here. And though I lose some units because I didn't make the Mothership Core, I'm able to escape with a Sentry and a couple Zealots there. Continuing Immortal production and chrono boosting. All very, very standard things going on. And so you should be wanting to follow this. Something I recommend that I did recently is I switched my Immortal hotkey. I is a little far, and you know, in situations of panic and micro, maybe a little tough to remember. So I switched mine to R personally. But also something to point out here is that when you're getting ready to push out, make sure you get that mothership core out. Some people prefer to get it faster so you get a little more energy, but so long as you have a recall or a time warp, it's really fine to get it later and, you know, try to get some more probes out and everything. And also the warp prism is very important to this build. Make sure you're getting that warp prism. You'll see people like Parting, you know, he's the warp prism god. You don't necessarily have to use it like Parting, but it's really nice to have that forward warp in just in case you lose pylons. And so here, you know, we see he's kind of baiting out. He's made a lot of roaches. We have those 3 immortals and a whole lot of force fields. We're going to be able to drop a lot of force fields here. Just cutting off the roaches there. Make sure you're splitting up the forces. It's really good for us. And you know, after I've cleaned up that force, we're going to walk into the 3rd here, and look, he still hasn't been able to saturate it because he's been so busy making units. To counter this, I actually have a worker lead here, which is really nice. And we're just going to force field off. This is what I was talking about. It's really easy to just force field off the units, and then we're going to recall right out of there. Very standard. And then behind it, you know, I've seen the Hydras here, and we're going to drop the Colossus, the Robotics Bay, and a Forge too. +1 is pretty important. But yeah, the Robotics Bay is good. Keep making Immortals at home. You know, he's still going to be on Roach and that stuff. And then eventually, you know, you're going to drop your 3rd base somewhere in there and +1 in your range. With the Warp Prism that you made earlier, you can also harass at the same time. This is pretty good for me. You see a Spire coming up from him, but he's so low econ anyway that it doesn't really help him. Even though he's trying to take that gold base as his 3rd, you should be getting ready to punish pretty hard. And in games like this, when he's forced to make units and you kill the 3rd base multiple times, all you need to do is keep constantly producing units. High-tech units are good too, like Colossus, and upgrades, and you should just be able to steamroll him when you get to a high enough supply. Like here with the Zealots, you know, in the main base, he's kind of moving his army all around. I know it's a good time to pressure. And you keep producing Colossus at home, as you can see. He has Corruptors here, but realistically, what are a few Corruptors to this army? And, you know, eventually I engage and all that. And we lose the Colossus, but, you know, they did their job. And ultimately GG is called.
Some people might consider this build kind of all in because you're constantly aggressing, but realistically what you're doing is you're delaying their economy long enough that you can get a unit advantage. So yeah, that can be kind of all in if you don't do, or you know, if you really mess up and you lose part of your army, but for the most part, you're actually just playing a more simple aggressive game instead of macroing and letting them sit and drone, because you're forcing out roaches or you're forcing out lings, and that's really important to keeping the drone count low. So remember, with this build, it's always important that you're making probes in between your warpins. And also, don't forget to spend your chrono boosts. They're really important. A lot of people say that Protoss is mechanically less demanding because you can get away with stuff like that, but you really can't afford to bank chrono boost with this build.
Remember, force field your way to victory and never give up. Fighting. I'd also like to thank my team, Solaris Gaming, and our sponsor, SC2 Highlights, for allowing us to do this video series and letting us get it out to everyone. And I hope you took this very seriously. I hope you try this build out because it's really strong and you'll get people to rage at you, so keep going.